Lake Clark National Park and Preserve, located in southwest Alaska, is another one of the country's least visited national parks. The park and preserve take up 4,030,015 acres of land, and there are no roads leading into the park, so it is typically reached by boat or float plane. There is one settlement in the park, Port Ellsworth, which as of 2020 has a population of 151. The first human settlement in the area was in Bristol Bay between about 8,000 and 5,500 BC. The first European to explore the area was Captain James Cook, who surveyed the Cook Inlet in 1778. Russian traders frequented the region throughout the 18th century, and American traders arrived in the 1890s. The first float plane landed on Lake Clark in 1930, and in 1942, an air taxi service to the lake was established. Today, the area is inhabited by the northern Athabaskan Denali, and the park has one notable archaeological site that has been designated a National Historic Landmark. Kijik Village, I hope I am pronouncing that right. Again, I really apologize for any mispronunciations, which was inhabited by the Denali until the early 20th century. The park was declared a national monument in 1978 and a national park and preserve in 1980 under the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act. It contains a wide variety of features, including streams, rivers, lakes, like Lake Clark, glaciers, regions of alpine tundra, and even sections of rainforests and salt marshes along the Cook Inlet. There are also two volcanoes within the park, Mount Iliamna and Mount Redoubt, which is an active volcano. The 10,197-foot-high Redoubt volcano has erupted 4 times since it was first observed, and it last erupted in 2009. Sockeye salmon are common in the park's rivers, which are a major part of the area's economy. Of course, this also means that bears, which feed on the salmon, are prevalent in the region as well. Most of the bears in the area are American brown bears or grizzly bears, though black bears are also present. They tend to be shyer, so they are less predominant and also less dangerous than the grizzlies. Lake Clark National Park has a subarctic climate with year-round precipitation. During 1 to 3 months of the year, the average temperatures in the park are between 50 and 71.6 degrees Fahrenheit. In colder months, the temperatures average below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, with an average annual extreme minimum temperature of negative 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Both fishing and sport hunting are allowed in the preserve, and fishing is also allowed in the park, along with kayaking, hiking, and camping. Denali National Park and Preserve, which covers 6,045,153 acres of land, is located in interior Alaska. Its namesake mountain is the highest mountain in North America at 20,310 feet above sea level. The park was actually established as Mount McKinley National Park because Mount Denali was called Mount McKinley after the President William McKinley by a local prospector in 1897. This name was formally adopted by the U.S. government when Mount McKinley National Park was established in 1917. Then in 1980, the national park was merged with Denali National Monument, and under the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, the area was collectively named Denali National Park and Reserve. The Alaska State Board of Geographic Names then changed the mountain's name to Denali, but the United States Board of Geographic Names didn't until 2015. So that's just a little bit confusing. Humans have inhabited the Denali region for more than 11,000 years, and there are about 84 archaeological sites within the park. This is relatively few due to the park's high elevation, harsh winter conditions, and scarce resources. And the sites that are in the park are largely hunting camps. Athabaskan people, primarily the Koyukon, Tanana, and Denali, have inhabited the region for at least 1,000 to 1,500 years. Denali National Park and Preserve encompasses the central portion of the Alaska Range, as well as multiple river valleys, glaciers, and glacial valleys. The park has a subarctic climate with cool summers and short growing seasons, and the average extreme minimum temperature is a negative 38.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Summers are cool and damp, where temperatures can be over 70 degrees, though snowfall in August has been recorded. The climate is drier north of the Alaskan Range and has larger temperature fluctuations. This national park does have one single 91-mile-long road known as the Denali Park Road that runs parallel to the Alaska Range. The first 15 miles can be accessed by private vehicles, while the rest requires a tour bus. Some of the road is unpaved because of the park's permafrost and freeze-thaw cycle. There are 4 campgrounds located in the park, and only subsistence hunting is allowed in the park, but sport hunting is allowed in the preserve. One of the most famous features of the park is an abandoned bus which was inhabited for approximately 3.5 months in 1992 by Christopher McCandless, who wanted to live simply off the land near the Stampede Trail, but unfortunately passed away. McCandless has become something of a mythical figure, and his story has inspired several articles, documentaries, and films. The bus that he lived in has also become a destination that many travelers visit, and on September 24th of 2020, the Museum of the North announced their plans to make it into an outdoor exhibit. This reminds me a bit of Maurice Wilson, who tried to climb Mount Everest. He wanted to prove the strength of his beliefs by climbing Mount Everest, just by praying. And all I can say is, please don't do this. If you want to go out in the wilderness, please be properly prepared and make sure that you don't, provoke any wild animals or eat anything that you don't absolutely know is safe. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. I know that's a little morbid, but this park is very beautiful, and Mount Denali is one of the 7 summits, or the highest mountain summits on every continent. I love hiking, and I think that maybe someday I'd like to hike one of the summits, though arguably that would be disregarding my own advice about being careful in the wilderness, as they're all pretty dangerous hikes, but I think I'd like to check at least one off the list. Katmai National Park and Preserve, located on the Alaskan Peninsula across from Kodiak Island, encompasses 4,093,077 acres of land. Evidence of human activity from around 40,000 BC to the 1912 eruption of the volcano Novarupta have been discovered along the south coast of the park. There are several archaeological sites in the region, including Kaguyak and Kukak. Brooks Camp is another significant archaeological site which lies farther inland and dates to 2050 BC. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places and designated a National Historic Landmark in 1993. The first Europeans in the area were Russian fur traders who made contact with the native inhabitants and lived in small numbers in Katmai village through the mid-19th century. In the late 19th century, several more villages were established, and Americans began trading in the region under the Alaska Commercial Company. Under the National Interest Lands Conservation Act in 1980, of course, it became a national park. The park was primarily established to preserve its volcanic areas, and until the 1950s, it was not widely visited. One of the most famous areas of the park is the Valley of 10,000 Smokes, a 40-square-mile area of pyroclastic flow, which was formed after Novarupta erupted in 1912. Tectonic activity had been reported in the Katmai Pass since 1898, and on June 1, 1912, they became so intense that the local residents decided to leave the area. On June 6th and 7th, Katmai and Novarupta both erupted. These eruptions gradually diminished after June 8th, leaving behind a foot of ash on Kodiak Island, atmospheric haze, and significantly lower temperatures in the northern hemisphere for the rest of the year, as well as this barren valley left in the wake of the eruptions. The valley ranges from 100 to 700 feet deep and covers a third of the park. It was declared a national monument on September 24, 1918. Mount Katmai, which the park is named after, is a 4,220-foot tall stratovolcano. There are 18 other volcanoes within the park, 7 of which are active volcanoes. The weather in the park is often rainy, with summer temperatures averaging at about 63 degrees Fahrenheit and winter low temperatures ranging between 40 and -4 degrees. In all honesty, after the crazy subarctic parks I've been researching, this seems pretty temperate. Weather is drier in autumn, and the western areas of the park do not get as much rainfall, but areas along the coast can get up to 60 inches of rain each year. Brown bears, along with their prey, sockeyed salmon, are some of the most notable wildlife in the park, though there are many other species of mammals, birds, and fish. These include timber wolves, beluga whales, gray whales, sea lions, caribou, mink, Arctic and red foxes, and snowshoe hares, among others. I think that my grandma, who's a photographer, visited this park to take pictures of the bears eating salmon. She has a pretty cool picture on her wall of a salmon jumping up the waterfall and into the bear's mouth. I know that there are other very similar pictures online, but out of all the pictures she's taken over the years, that's always been one of my favorites. I know she took the picture in Alaska, but I'm not entirely sure where. I do vaguely remember her telling me that it was near Denali, but not in Denali, so this may be it. I'll have to ask her. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Bye!